I'm excited to be here on Buccaneer Sunday. I know that there are people that watch our talks down the road, and I just need to explain my attire. It's Buccaneer Sunday. So it's not Casual Friday. It is a day to celebrate all things Tampa and being here. And so I know that this afternoon is going to be a lot of fun. I hope that you'll join us over at the press box as we watch the game together. And Lori spoke it in prayer. The Bucs are going to come out.
Just saying.
Anyway, so here's my question for you today. How many of you played outside in the summer with the garden hose?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, awesome. I thought it was a universal experience, but I didn't know, because I know a lot of you grew up around here where it's blazing hot, and most of you probably had access to some kind of swimming pool, and perhaps the garden hose was not as big a deal as it was out in Colorado where I was out growing up. And I guess heat is all relative, but we thought it was hot, and we would ask our parents, can we go, or my grandparents too, can we go outside and play with the hose? Can we play in the sprinkler? Can we play outside with the hose? And it was great fun. There was great fun in playing with that, squirting each other, and of course, to get it started, someone was always surprising someone else and spraying them, and inevitably, there was also fun in kinking the hose, right? Because when your brother had the hose and was getting you could reach and grab it and kink it, and it would stop the flow of the water and purposefully reduce the flow by tangling up the hose. And I know you've all seen videos where the little kids were playing with the hose and somehow it gets kinked and they're confused or what happened, and then they unkinks and it sprays them in the face. It's always very fun. But anyway, hilarious. A couple of weeks ago, I was out on our lanai and I was using the hose to try to clean off the pool deck. And this very thing happened, like somewhere around the corner out of my view, something happened and it wasn't spraying anymore, so I had to do that old thing that I learned in childhood, go find the kink and straighten it out, and then I could finish my job. And so we know from experience that a tangled hose or like a kinked hose can almost, if not completely stop the flow of water, it can get pretty close to stopping it altogether. And I think that there is a valuable spiritual lesson in that experience, because the very important thing that we have to remember is that just because the hose is tangled doesn't mean that the water supply is gone, that the water is not flowing. The water supply is still there. It's just waiting for us to untangle the hose to get the flow going again. And October is the month where we as a whole organization are talking about prosperity, wealth, and abundance, and we want to kind of explore the spiritual principle that is related to this topic. And so my talk title today is Untangle the Hose. Untangle the Hose. So Ernest Holmes had a lot to say about prosperity, wealth, and abundance. Maybe it was because he was talking and developing this teaching around the experience of the Depression, but it was certainly on his mind, and he wrote a lot about it. And I want to start with a quote, because Ernest Holmes points out that abundance isn't a thing, it's a universal presence, and Lori had a little bit to say about that in her reading. So the founder of our philosophy wrote, one of the many things he wrote, he said, as we express life, we fulfill God's law of abundance. We do this only as we realize that there is good enough to go around, only as we know that all of God's gifts are given as freely and fully as the air and the sunshine, alike to all. So today I want to spend some time thinking about the universe that we live in, the world that we live in, where we exist. This is a universe of infinite abundance. The nature of God, the nature of the divine is on display no matter where we look. We see abundance. I mean, think about it. It's impossible to grasp the concept of infinite abundance. It's hard for us as human beings to think about that. But we have to consider the evidence of what we can see as abundant and the things that we know that are invisible but are still abundant. Because we see abundance in what? We see abundance in blades of grass. I mean, think of all the blades of grass, just in your own yard. Just in the places you don't even want there to be blades of grass. There are an infinite abundance of blades of grass. But think of all the cells in our bodies. Think of all the grains of sand on a single beach, much less around the world and in the bottom of all of the ocean, right? Think about the innumerable stars and galaxies that we get to experience, the drops in the oceans, the molecules of air, all the things that we can see and experience. But then think about the unseen things that are limitless, like how many thoughts we can think, or how many thoughts could the entire human race think on a single day. I mean, it's an infinite number of abundance. Abundance is the very essence of the infinite source itself. Abundance is everything. The abundance of God is available to us in every moment. It is present, as you read, in every moment, in every experience. But guess what we must do? We must remember that our personal hose is attached to that supply, is attached to the experience of abundance. We can never, ever, ever disconnect ourselves from the supply of infinite abundance. Now, we might kink our hose, and that's what we're going to talk today about, but we're never disconnected from the supplies. Now, if you took my course in abundance that I taught back a few months ago, this is going to be a little bit of a refresher for you, but nonetheless, there's some concepts that I want to emphasize because I think they're things, because I think us need to be aware of, even if we don't take a class in it. So we are energy beings. We are energy beings living in a universe of energy. Everything is energy. All forms, everything is energy, vibrating slowly if it's a solid object, or if it's a person or whatever, it's a being, it's slow vibrating energy. And then there are things that are vibrating much higher. Thoughts are energy. Emotions are energy. Everything is energy. And energy is infinitely abundant in the universe because it is never destroyed. It simply takes one form of expression, fades away, expresses again in another form, sometimes for a long time, always vibrating at different speeds to appear solid or not. So everything is energy. And as human beings, energy is moving through us and as us all of our lives, all the time. We are energy, experiencing energy. We're in constant relationship with energy. And energy is responsive to our direction of it. How do we direct it? We direct energy in how we think, what we believe, what we feel, and the choices that we make. And our thoughts and feelings and choices are either attracting energy toward us or repelling energy away from us. Now, I am super simplifying the science behind all this, but just hang with me. Now, if we want more energy to flow through our lives, we must make higher vibrating choices, think higher thoughts, emote the most positive emotion possible in order to attract more towards us. Now, I want to stop for a second and say this. Whenever I talk about abundance, we sometimes limit the discussion to a discussion about money. And we will talk about money today, and I'll spend some time with that. But I want to make sure that I stress that when I talk about abundance and wealth and prosperity, you understand that I'm also talking about a wealth of friendship, or an abundance of health, or prosperous amount of support in our lives, or a prosperity of opportunities or ideas, an energetic peace of mind. There's abundance that can be experienced in a lot of different ways. It's all good, and all good is available to us because we are alive and living in this universe where we are what? We are connected to the source. So I want you to think back again to the days of playing with the hose, okay? Think back to how old were you? I can remember playing with the hose as I know what house we were living in, so I had to be like 4 or 5 maybe. So think about yourself at that age, just running around and playing with the garden hose, and at age 3, 4, 5 years old, something like that, you are most likely not worried about the water bill. And you probably weren't worried about any kind of water crisis anywhere in the world as you were spraying the hose. You just were probably not worrying about the source running out for any of your needs, much less just the water in the hose. But you were just most likely very well taken care of and loved and whatever. You were young enough to not be worrying about anything. Hopefully you were in your natural connection to the all. To the all. You didn't worry about where the food was coming from. You didn't worry about where anything was coming from. You're just there, right? What happened? What happened between then and now as you sit here this morning? What happened? Life happened. Human experiences happened. And as we go through our lives, we experience various things that cause us to doubt. We doubt our place in the world. We doubt our source. We doubt our prosperity, our natural connection to this infinite universe of possibility. You were probably taught to hoard resources. You were probably taught the idea of poverty. You were probably taught about starving children somewhere in the world. I've heard Ethiopia and China and who knows, they're starving children somewhere. We were taught about this, and you were likely shamed for wanting more. You were likely scolded for stating your desire and reaching for that last cookie. You learn to protect yourself from disappointment, from hurt, and from loss. So I want you to think about that you have this hose, if you will, of source, of life force running through you. And when you're young and when you are naturally attached to the universe, your hose is wide open. You're just flowing out, flowing out. But as you begin to get hurt and disappointed and divorced and rejected and fired and all of the things that happen in life, we begin to close our hose off. We begin to pinch it. We begin to doubt ourselves and doubt our worthiness of everything flowing through us. We get afraid. And as we pinch ourselves off, all of that causes us to kink our hose. And over time, you are no longer that vibrant, enthusiastic, wide open, far-flinging, energetic young child. Over time, you learn how to protect yourself, and in doing so, you stopped putting yourself out there so much. You stopped taking the risk of sending your highest and best out into the world. You had an experience, or many experiences, that caused you to doubt yourself and play small. And when you do that, your tangled hose begins to limit the amount of good flowing into your life. Okay? So I say that we control the out spigot. We control the flow out, and Spirit simply waits to express through us. It just waits, right? We have to turn on the energy flow out from ourselves and into the universe. And when our output into the world is based on a belief in lack or self-protection or doubt or fear, we are sending out a trickle of a low, repellent kind of energy. And when our output into the world is based firmly on this confident belief of our connection to the all, when we know we can express, we have an identity of spiritual abundance, we're sending out a higher, attracting kind of energy. And whatever we send out in the law of circulation must come back to us. You've been taught that all your life in different things. Be careful what you say, be careful what you do to others, you get back. There's messages of that all over the place. So what you send out, you get back. So let's unkink our hoses. So what we say we want is more money, right? We say that's what we want. We firmly believe if we had more money, our lives would be so wonderful. It would be so wonderful. So let's talk specifically about money for just a second. Again, if you were in the class, it was a refresher for you. You do not want a big pile of money. A big pile of money is just paper, and unless you're going to start a big fire, that is not what you're doing. What you want is the financial ability to support and appreciate whatever it is that you want to support and appreciate. Whatever you want to appreciate. You want to be able to direct more flow in your life. That's what you want more abundantly. And the flow that you want to direct is the energy of, if you were in the class, what is it? Appreciation. Can we agree that there is no lack of the energy of appreciation? If Randy wants to appreciate and appreciate and appreciate, that does not prevent Sally from appreciating, right? There is no lack. That is an unlimited well of appreciation. Now, we as human beings, humankind, has always had symbols that we share to represent that appreciation. So over the years, you know, if you know history at all, we used to trade furs and spices and bones and shells. Those were our symbols. I appreciate you, I give you this fur, you appreciate me, you give me some chocolate. So we trade things. It's a symbol of appreciation. And the more appreciated you are, the more symbols you have. The more you appreciate someone else, the more symbols you give to them, right? So the various cultures agreed upon what they could trade for appreciation. And right now, our currency, our current way of showing appreciation is with little coins and little pieces of paper. To a degree, and that's shifting. Now we are more little pieces of plastic that send electrical impulses and little zeros and numbers in intangible form. That's how we show appreciation back and forth. But nonetheless, we have these symbols that represent our appreciation. If we want to experience an inflow of more of these symbols of appreciation, one of the key steps we must take is to increase the flow of appreciation and the symbols, therefore, out into our lives. Remember, we control the out spigot. God controls the in spigot. So send it out. There's no limit to the amount of energy of appreciation. We can show it in an infinite number of ways, including sharing symbols. But through our words, our thoughts, our gestures, we can appreciate. And what stops us from participating in the flow of appreciation? The same thing that stops us from doing anything else. Fear. Fear. Fear of lack, fear of not being enough, fear of our source running out, fear of connecting with other people, fear of not knowing how, fear that if we're too generous, we're going to be more generous than them, and then they're taking advantage of us, or whatever. Our fears stop us from sending our appreciation out. And in order to have a different relationship with the law of circulation and the law of abundance, we must let go of our relationship with it from the past. We must release our attachment to the experiences that taught us lack, that taught us to fear, that taught us to think of ourselves as less than, that taught us to protect ourselves and squeeze off our hose. And that becomes our spiritual work. That becomes our work. Our work becomes the work of going through those experiences one by one and releasing the resentments and disappointments to find a new direction for ourselves. Our work becomes the work of seeking a refreshed, new identity as an abundant spiritual being following the direction of that still small voice we have inside. Our work becomes a practice of letting go of what was and anticipating an experience of what is. What is? Our work becomes seeking every single opportunity we have to express appreciation for the things in our life that we love, for the people in our life that make a difference to us, for the community that makes a difference to us. Love what we have. We replace these lower vibrational experiences of resentment. And when we do that, and when we replace it with a higher vibrational experience of forgiveness, we rise. When we replace a low vibrational thought of blame and judgment, and we replace it with a higher thought of love and appreciation and acceptance and surrender, we rise. And when we let go of fear and realize there's nothing to fear because you are a God being and everyone else is too, we rise. And we stop trying to protect ourselves and instead start expressing ourselves, and we rise. And when we rise, we create a magnetic field around us that attracts a greater good. More resources, more solutions, more friends, more love, more appreciation, and the symbols thereof, more money. When we rise, we lift ourselves out of the bondage of lack that we may have been held in for a very long time. Very long time. So Ernest Holmes says this. It's not on the slide, don't worry. If a man takes his images of thought only from his previous experiences, in other words, if he's not having a new thought, then he continues in the bondage which those previous experiences create. You stay the same. He goes on to say, Jesus understood these great laws of cause and effect in the universe, which work sometimes with the apparent slowness, but always with sureness. Eventually, we shall understand that all human bondage is an invention of ignorance. And so when he talks about human bondage, that's what I'm referring to as a keep toes. Our pose is bound up. And he talks about releasing it and opening that channel through which spirit can flow. We let go of the ignorance of belief and lack and limitation. And we begin to practice this wiser belief in the infinite abundance of God itself. So make it your spiritual practice when you're walking around the world and you see grass. I was driving up here today, the line of pine trees on I-75. I thought, how many pine needles must there be on this one stretch of I-75? And I'm like, thank you, God, for this symbol of abundance. So give thanks for every symbol of abundance. You're combing your hair, maybe not some of you, but you're thank God for this symbol of abundance. As we have closed our minds and hearts, and in that experience, we've turned down the spigot in our life to a trickle. And when we open that back up to a full flow, we open ourselves up to an experience of allowing love and appreciation to flow out from us. And we generously give of our hearts and our time, talent, and treasure, or whatever it says, to the things that we love and appreciate. We unblock ourselves and we know the truth of who we are. And so in closing, I want to go back to that original quote. I invite you to the one that says that God's gifts are given freely and fully as the air and the sunshine to all. Because there's one little key belief we have to let go of. Most of us were taught that there's only a limited amount of good. There are only so many cookies. There's only so much of good. And if I take more, if I desire more, if I want more, I'm naughty, or I'm wrong, or I'm selfish. If we take more, or even express a desire for more, we're being selfish and depriving someone else of having their share. Let that go. That's not how the universe works. There's air and sunshine for all of us. Therefore, there's appreciation for all of us, and there's money for all. And there's every opportunity for all of us. God delights in our acceptance of whatever good we accept. There's enough air for everyone. Breathe deeply. There's enough ideas to dream big. There's enough appreciation for all of us to receive and accept, and enough to give away. Be appreciative and create ways for you to be appreciated too. And therefore, there's enough financial resources for everyone to give and receive as well. So I really do invite you to allow the goodness of spirit, the abundance and prosperity and wealth that is your divine birthright, to flow mightily in your life. Do whatever it takes to untangle your personal woes. And as I said, I have this little handout in the program for you 10 ways to increase your livingness. It was written by a minister, one of my colleagues actually, Reverend Michelle Wadley from New Jersey. Put it on your fridge or read it somewhere. Practice it, because your livingness means about how you can participate in life and see what happens to delight you. Because I can't wait to celebrate and play in the hose with you. And so it is.
So it is.